YouTube, let's do it. There it is. Let's go live in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're back in the Weather Center for Weather Center Live. It is our 8 p.m. Saturday night live stream, February 10th, 2024. We've got a lot to cover tonight. I will more or less be taking you along a trip with me as we do a little bit of snow and severe weather forecasting, because it does look like things are going to get pretty nasty over the next few days, to include tomorrow in central Texas, where it looks like we have the potential for a isolated tornado outbreak to occur along the leading edge of that frontal system as it begins to develop over central Texas. Got lots of snowfall expected for the Texas-Oklahoma panhandles, and as this system transitions towards the east-northeast, riding that line of baroclinicity, that baroclinic line, moving up towards Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Midwest, or the mid-Atlantic states, excuse me. Wow. That's when all heck is going to break loose for a number of people, not only in the south, but all the way up towards the north as well. I'll take you along the ride with me in terms of forecasting the snow, so we shall see exactly what happens. But it looks like tomorrow is going to be a big day for a lot of people in central Texas as well. So if anyone's watching in Texas, or if you know anybody in Texas, please fill them in. Get them in this live stream so we can do a little forecasting for them. We're going to cover everything. Let me pull up my Epic pen. Here we go. Let's do this. Let me move this out of the way. So we're going to start here first. We're going to start in central Texas. We'll also talk the snow. We're going to bounce between the two. These are going to be our number one focal point areas. We're going to look at the dynamics across the south, kind of examine a little bit more of what's going on in central Florida in terms of our threat for severe weather, because I think it is being underwritten by a lot of our models, especially just being out and about today. Apparently, according to the models, we have a lot of subsidence in the mid-levels. A lot of subsidence that's going to help to cap everything off. But I've been looking at all of our observed soundings across the spectrum, and everywhere has subsidence. So we're going to kind of look at a couple different things. We're going to look at our advections, both temperature, moisture advection in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. We're going to look at our dry air. We're going to see if we can make inversion break. We're going to see if we're going to break that inversion, whether it be mechanically or convectively. We're going to look at that as well. And we're also going to do a little bit of examination in terms of what kind of snow we're going to see here across this general area, all the way up into the northeast. So, Amanda, I'm not too sure why I'm buffering. It looks like I'm doing okay. I see excellent connection here on YouTube. I don't see myself... Oh, no, yeah, I do. I see myself lagging a little bit. All right, let's get started here. Hello, everybody. Amanda, thank you for joining. Scrooge McDuck, I see your comment from earlier. Pete Berg, welcome in, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Joseph, Elite Chief Stark. PM, Torbus Ronnie, how close are we? Chris, Shelley, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. All right, so this is the area in question down over Texas. Let me go ahead and let's take a look at what we have going on, because I did, in fact, get my radar Omega working. And let's go ahead and take a little bit of a examination down over the south. Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull this up. How's everybody doing tonight? How's the first half of the weekend treating everybody? Did you guys enjoy your Friday night? Enjoy the first half and I should say the early evening of Saturday? Here we go. So I got my radar Omega up. Let's head on out and see what we got going on. So this is all of our preliminary stuff. This is all of our preliminary stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I saw some reports of some hail out of these storms earlier today. I noticed there were a few folks out chasing in Texas. One of my buddies out there was doing a little bit of chasing, and I saw him posting on Instagram that there were some definite likely areas producing hail. We got some special weather statements out there. I'm honestly a little impressed that we're seeing at least enhanced activity with this stuff. This was honestly supposed to be more or less stratiform, more showery in nature, like all this stuff. Up in through here, this is kind of what we were expecting. This is what we were expecting with all this good onshore flow, and I think the main reason why our models are finally unveiling what could possibly be taking shape in terms of our cape is the fact that we do have good buoyancy down here, allowing these storms to kind of fire. And notice how a lot of our shower and precip action is occurring much further to the north, and everywhere down here is going to be completely available to tap into a lot of this good old stuff, this cape and buoyancy and whatnot. And that's why I really suspect that Florida is going to see something. I really do think Florida is going to see something. I don't know why our models are being so latent with our cape. The models did horrible on the side here in Texas all the way through the Gulf Coast. It wasn't until about 2 days ago where our cape finally started to surge up to the north just a little bit. All right, before the stream boots, give me 1 second. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. It is not ending. It is not ending. Give me 1 second. Okay. Well, we failed that test, unfortunately. The Wi-Fi is not strong enough in this house to support a live stream. Now we should be good to go. We are hard plugged in. We should not experience any more latency issues. I do apologize for that absence. We should be good to go now. So if anybody could let me know in the stream a little bit ago. Oh my God, yeah, we did. Did we? It looks like it reset. No, I don't understand. It says we've been live for 6 minutes, but the stream just restarted the video. Okay, anyways, we're hard plugged into the Ethernet now, so we should be okay. Wi-Fi, we wanted to do a test here in the household and see if we could get away with not using the hard cable, but it looks like that is inevitably going to have to happen. So we should be good to go now. Everything should be all right. We are hard plugged in. We got full internet connection. We're back up and running. Sorry about that, guys. It was kind of a test run tonight, so I do apologize if anybody lagged out or if there was any latency issues. But okay, so this is our current radar. You twits need to get out if you're going to make noise. I'm talking to you guys. All right, here we go. Let's get out of here. We got 4 alerts active right now, just all special weather statements. Let's go ahead and dig into the meat and potatoes of what we have going on tonight. What did I just say? Get out. Get out. Anyways, shucks. All right. So this is exactly what I've been looking at for the last, I would say, few days now. We've been back and forth here in the Weather Center examining exactly why our models have been all sorts of dorked up in terms of no CAPE, no instability, not a lot of moisture, etc. It's been ridiculous. And I think a lot of the reason has to do with the fact that in all of our areas underneath that high pressure, it looks like there is quite a bit of subsidence. You can see this subsidence inversion right here where our temperature starts to warm with height and we start to get significant drying. And what that indicates, especially above ground level, is air. Sinking air. I don't know why certain people are getting advertisements. There hasn't been an advertisement just yet. YouTube lets me know when an advertisement pops up. It'll give me a little disclaimer in the bottom left-hand corner. We haven't had any advertisements yet. There shouldn't be any advertisements. If there's something advertising on your end, then that could be something with your own YouTube settings, to tell you the truth, because we haven't run an ad yet. I have my ad settings on conservative mode because if I'm being truthful, my YouTube videos are not getting very many views, so I need to get revenue from somewhere, just being honest. Who in here is still getting technical difficulties? Press 1 if you're getting technical difficulties. Press 2 if you guys are doing okay. I guess we kind of zapped ourselves. Yep, I see it lagging in the chat. Oh, my God. I can't. YouTube is always dorked up anyways. I don't understand what's going on. It still says that I have a scheduled stream. I'm not too sure. So for folks who don't have any issues with latency, please put a 2 in the chat. Anybody who is getting latency, put a 1 in the chat. Thank you. All right. I don't understand what's going on. OBS looks fine. I'm not getting any issues in OBS. I'm not getting any issues in YouTube, so I'm wondering if it's YouTube itself. Maybe we're still trying to connect to, whatchamacallit, the actual hardline. We're plugged in hardline. Hopefully it'll iron itself out here in a moment. If I pause, it's because I have pets in the background being dorks. That's why. So one thing's for certain, we're definitely going to see severe weather across the south. I've been talking about this for quite a number of days now, and it actually is very, 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 very relieving and very fulfilling to notice that our areas for a level 2 risk in comparison to our level 1 risk are ebbing and flowing with exactly what we've been highlighting and forecasting for the last several days. If you notice, I had mentioned on that one stream, I believe either earlier this week, I think it was on Tuesday or something like that, because it does seem like we have everything in this general area highlighted for yellow. We had mentioned highlighting this in a level 2 risk, mentioned all this in a level 1 risk, so we're doing pretty good here for what we're doing. All right, hopefully now we should be good to go. Hopefully. The slow mode. I have the slow mode set to 25 seconds or something like that. In fact, I don't even see the... Slow mode is normal, 30 seconds. It's always 30 seconds. I always leave it at 30 seconds. I never change it. But all right, let's get into it. So this is why I do believe that we're going to have some really serious weather. Look at this jet max rounding the base of our trough, and it's going to kick out over the southern plains into Texas. Right there is where I do think we're going to see some very good cyclogenesis. It is still positively tilted. That is one thing we have going for us. It's not going to be very rapid cyclogenesis until we get up to here and we do see it take on a bit more of a negative tilt. This is our SPC high-res ensemble forecast, so we're not going to be able to go that far out. But this jet max is what we really need to pay close attention to. That is what's going to help to really induce this low. And right along the leading edge of that, as you can see, it does strengthen. This shortwave jet max does strengthen very good. And we get very, very strong winds right up in this area. So I do believe, and truthfully, I'm not too sure why SPC doesn't have an enhanced risk down here and maybe even an enhanced risk down here. That's exactly how I would play it. Personally, that's just me, just looking at the few things I've looked at tonight. So this jet max and all the difluent flow out ahead of it and this little bubble of cold air, this little induction of cold air on the north side is what's going to help to not only produce our snow, but also going to help to really amp up our severe weather threat. Because all in all, we don't have a lot of temperature discontinuity along the front. We definitely do not. This is not going to be one of our more sporty events, just like we've seen in the past. And I do believe I'm standing firm in my preliminary forecast that in this case, it's not necessarily the amount of cold air we have on the backside. It's going to be just how much warm air we have pulled up on the front side, because it is hot out here. We made it to, I believe, almost 80 degrees, if not surpassed that here in Central Florida, for example. And I know that the milder temps are surging much further to the north. And if you look at a temperature chart, it does an outstanding job of highlighting that. I'll pull it up for you right now, as a matter of fact. We'll go to analysis data. We'll go to our surface maps. And we'll take a look at our theta E. Here we go. This is an excellent depiction right here. This is our current theta E. And if you notice, we have a very, very good punch of warm theta E's right in that general area where I do think we should have a small couple areas of enhanced or at least hatch areas highlighted for this severe weather potential. And in fact, it almost looks like we have a stationary boundary already. Actually, yeah, that is a stationary boundary. That is most definitely a stationary boundary right in through here. That's what's causing our frontal overrunning. Here's the nose of that cold air. Here's our surface front. That's the cold front right there. And then when you have that little call, that neutral point, whoops, I drew all that wrong. This little neutral point, that's where your advection more or less comes to a halt. You have very weak cold air advection on the west side of it, but then all of this is stationary front, leading right back to where cyclogenesis is going to occur, which is exactly what I was trying to mention to you guys the other day, that's kind of more or less the path this low is going to take. It's going to follow that baroclinic line for sure, and it's going to head right up over the Appalachians, and I do believe as we get up further and further into this cold air up here, I'm not too sure, I'm still not too sold on a heck of a lot of snowfall through here. I do believe, I'll clear this out, this area I think right in through here is going to be very hit or miss with our snowfall, and I do think we're going to, and it's crazy too because we have a ripe setup, almost a springtime setup down over the deep south in the Gulf Coast states, the Dixie Alley area, almost very reminiscent to an early spring. And nobody's mentioning that. No one really wants to, and we're buffering again. Son of a beehive, we're buffering. I see it. Why are we buffering? YouTube, what is going on? Why are we buffering, YouTube? There we go, we're back. Now it looks like OBS is struggling a little bit. OBS is definitely struggling some. Okay. As long as we don't get booted out of the stream, that's all I care about. And you know, truthfully, before we go any further into the forecast, what I want to show you guys is I do think, and I'm kind of more or less on board with Phil thinking that we could have an early spring arrival. I do think we're going to start to have a bit of an early spring arrival, because if you look at our 12Z GFS, we'll go back to the 12 Zulu first, and let's see. As you take this through time on 12Z, notice we actually have a very, very big recession of our cold air. And I really do think that spring is going to come early. There's a number of meteorological sources out there. There's a number of people who will argue that winter is far from over, winter is not over. I do think we're in for a very mild winter. At this point in time, middle of February, approaching middle of February, I thought we would have been seeing something posturing in the way of some very, very strong cold air punching back down to the south. But for example, right here, guys, this kind of paints the picture, and we're only about a couple days, we're only 4 days into this. If you look, our 540 line has receded well to the north. Our 540 line is well up into the Central Plains, the northern Four Corners area, over the mid-Atlantic. That's astonishing, to tell you the truth. If you fast forward further in time, it looks ominous. It looks ominous, this cold plunge, but again, this is why I'm a little more concerned with severe weather through the south now, because we're looking at an early surge of spring-like conditions for the southern tier U.S. The reason, I've been looking at this, and I was honestly, truthfully expecting this to be a lot denser of cold air, but it really isn't. The main reason we have such good pressure gradient values here, or a tight pressure gradient isobaric pattern like so, built in right along the front range of the Rockies, is not because of the cold air, it's because of the warm air. Before I go any further, I want to show you the shaded temperature. Look at this. We're really warm. Spring is kind of showing itself over the south, and this isn't even max heating of the day. We're getting into max heating of the day. And look at how we're finally getting into the greens. We're getting out of the freezing temps overnight after sundown, all the way up into the northern plains, into the Midwest. We're above freezing after the sun goes down. And yeah, we get a little bit, but notice how it's too scared to come down. We get a little bit of that Arctic air, but it's not flowing down. In fact, the warm air is taking over the south. Look at how warm we're expected to get as we get closer to my dad's birthday. Look at these max temps. And now I know, granted, it's still cool, but this is definitely an early sign of spring. And if I switch us back over to the mean sea level pressure and precip, and we go all the way to the end, this is where it gets very interesting. Because notice how our 540 line is all the way above the Canadian border at this point. And yeah, we have a nice little punch of cooler air here, but there's no Arctic air. We just have a really nice occluded front bringing down another frontal system, and this is at the very tail end of the loop, so it's going to change, but nevertheless, look at where our 564 line, our subtropical air, is going to be well across the south. Look at all this very good warm advection that's expected to occur across the eastern U.S. It's almost like the pattern's going to flip, but it's going to very quickly come back to it. And 18Z, despite being a continuity run, look at this. This is even crazier. Look at all of our warm thickness values all the way up through here. This is all warmer air. Winter's all the way up here. So I'd say about 75% of the United States is going to feel an early spring push as opposed to winter conditions, which is a huge change. And I mean, this is definitely worth mentioning in a thumbnail. Massive change, because check this out. If we come back to Thursday at 12Z, look at the difference here. If I go forward in time, notice how we have our 540 line well down in through here. But even, actually, no, I lied. Even this, I'm trying to remember what model run it was. Maybe it was Wednesday? Was it Wednesday? What day was it? Yeah, here we go. This is where the Arctic air was supposed to come all the way back down towards the south, with our polar front making it all the way through the Texas-Mexico border. And that has since very, very rapidly and very vastly changed. Very vastly changed. It depends on what area you're mentioning, J2 Ace. It depends on the area. It really does depend. There is some winter, but it is short. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. It looks like winter is going to be very heavily sheltered up to the north. Down to the south, it's anybody's best guess. They'll probably have some cooler mornings, some nice evenings, but especially down here, it definitely felt like spring. It did not feel anything remotely like winter time. Not at all, in fact, honestly. And it's very impressive that our 540 line is way up here. That's wild. That means there really isn't a chance for any kind of snowfall, even as far north as the Pacific Northwest and Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, where we've been getting it. Yeah, there's still some snow indications here, but ignore that. That's when you're at least 3 to 6 to 8,000 feet up in the air. Those are the Sierra Nevadas being lit up for snow, and that makes sense. But it does not look like, and this is only halfway through the loop. It's not like we're in La La Land at this point. We're only halfway through the loop. Could you get out of the way? I don't want that. Thank you. Even this little winter entity right here really doesn't do very much, and I can totally agree with this. We'll need to watch this if this trends, because that could definitely be more of an icing event than it will be a snow event. So I don't know. Unless we get some kind of a massive, big, change, etc., whatever, I don't really think winter, or let alone the Arctic air, is really going to make it that far south ever again. We might not see that. At least right now, I'm not sold on it. The rest of February, if we somehow see a massive Arctic plunge in March, that's a little weird. Because we typically, March is kind of cool, but March is when we really begin transition season. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm actually going to do this because low-key, I'm not really well-versed with it on the calendar itself. Yeah, look at that. So we're already approaching spring. So if we see an Arctic push in March, then that's something's really wrong. But, we're running out of time to get another real big, heavy snow, winter storm, historic, rare, etc. Like, it doesn't look promising. It really doesn't. And in fact, looking at this chart all in of itself, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know this is 18Z, and 12Z didn't really look all that impressive. I will go to 12Z. 12Z is the more reliable run. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Just looking at this, the folks on here on YouTube are really going to have to come up with something different to start hyping here very soon, because the snow looks like it might be dwindling. Gone will be the days very soon of massive, obviously we'll still see this just got worse, but in terms of people hyping snow, that's going to probably be dwindling as we get close to the end of February. I really do think so. Is it all that impressive given the summer we had? What do you mean, Nick? What do you mean? What's impressive? On Monday and Sunday, do you think the Gulf Coast could see uptick in severe? Oh, absolutely, J2ACR. We're going to get into that here in a second. I apologize, we're rambling a little bit. We had 8 inches of snow in April before. Jesse, where are you at? And there's a lot of variables you really got to think about in terms of when you received 8 inches of snow. There's a lot of variables. Right now, we're definitely in a very weird pattern. There's going to be, PM and I were kind of going back and forth on this on X earlier. We're going to see some very interesting stuff this year, because not only are we going to be transitioning to spring and leaving winter in an El Nino, but El Nino is also going to start to break down as we begin the springtime. So we're going to see all sorts of huge, and yes, I'm going to say it, huge pattern changes, because right now, if I go back over to the satellite, and I swear, guys, I promise, roll with me. Then we'll get into the forecasting, but I'm just trying to lay out what we could possibly be seeing the next couple of months. Because if you look at this is a textbook El Nino, like textbook. If I pause the loop right there, this is 100,000% El Nino. We have our polar front jet, very diffuse, and then this is El Nino right there. 175,000%. That's for certain. Winter is up here. Winter is far to the north. You can see the cooler indications on our infrared satellite. There's really not a whole lot of cold air anywhere unless you're in the west, because we still have that deep trough out there, and that's exactly what's going to help to pull some of that snowfall down over the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle over the next 24, 30 hours. But as we roll into spring and we begin to see the jet stream, the polar front jet, start to do some weird stuff as we get into, that seasonal shift globally, we're also going to lose this influence slowly and then eventually very rapidly as El Nino weakens. So we're going to have almost 3 big transitions as we leave winter and go into spring. We're in an El Nino winter right now, which is already dorking things up with very hot ocean temperatures on either side of the country. On top of that, we're going to see the transitional shift of winter to spring. And when I say that, guys, I mean just looking at it globally, like the axis of tilt, the angle of attack in terms of what the sun does and why this is technically considered winter in the northern hemisphere because of the angulation of the Earth in comparison to the sun. But we're also going to see the changes in our ocean temps. So all this is going to happen at once, and it could be very spooky exactly what happens as we go through spring and especially start summer and we get into those real neutral / very weak La Nina phases. So, big stuff on the horizon. But okay. Let me see. On the soundings, is it still showing it's going to be capped? Yes, Travis. On the forecast soundings, they're still showing we're going to have that subsidence, which, again, I'm finding it very weird. I really do think our models are not doing too well in this case. I think our models are almost programmed to react to certain scenarios for winter. And right now, we're really in unseasonal-like conditions, truthfully. This is one time where I will say we're in an unseasonal pattern because of El Nino. We have that subtropical ridge really building in intensity, and that's why we have such warm theta values down over the south. Because when you think about it, if you go back to that satellite image I just pulled up, with this trough, the polar trough, digging in like this, what that's doing is allowing our subtropical jet to ridge to the north. And as such, because of El Nino, we have all this coming up. We have all that subtropical air surging from the south of it. And that's why I do think, again, I know I've said this 1,000 times already, I feel like it's not necessarily the strength of the trough and the cold air. It's going to be the strength of this El Nino subtropical air push. And you look over here, and this is a wonderful example of it. We're kind of almost cut into 3 different seasons. We have winter up here, we have a preliminary spring season, and then we have spring coming in thanks to our subtropical jet positioned where it is thanks to El Nino. I mean, look at this. We have some really high theta E values over the Gulf of Mexico. They're almost feeling summer-like conditions, very early summer-like conditions down towards the Yucatan Peninsula in Central America. So this is, this is going to be an interesting setup, and we get another good cold push like that with our subtropical jet as aggressive as it is, even if it's a polar plunge, not an Arctic plunge, we'll definitely want to but kind of experiment with the idea, toss it around of seeing lots of widespread severe weather conditions for the south. Which is why I'm still confused why Florida is not bullseyed. It's like for some reason, models are thinking Florida is not going to do anything. The hottest state most of the time is not going to do anything. But here we go, guys, like I promised. This is a look at our FV3 model. This is our first high-res model we're going to take a look at. You can see our preliminary push of frontal overrunning reacting to that cold boundary that's more or less going stationary over the Texarkana area, Mississippi, Tennessee, and following that line of baroclinic temperature discontinuity up towards the east-northeast. And then there's our lingering snowfall that's going to come out of the trough that's out west. And when I say come out of the trough or when it's going to bleed out, is if we very quickly, let's see, let's go to an upper level chart. We'll go to upper air maps and we'll look at, there we go, perfect, 500 millibar chart. This is what I mean. So all this is polar air. That's polar front jet. And so when I say cold air bleed out is even though we're running into subtropical air, we're going to see this shortwave break away and bring some of that cold air with it into the lower terrain. And that's why we're going to get a little bit of that wraparound snow effect. And then as you get more underneath that subtropical ridge, that's why I do believe our snow band is going to really dissipate. We're going to see a good little band here. Might get some very, very light flurries depending on how much cold air it takes with it if it doesn't modify out. And then if you look very faintly in these thickness lines, these theta or these isotherms, we do have a good little indication of some cold air nestled into the upper Great Lakes over Ontario, Quebec, and the northeast, extreme northeasternmost United States. So I do believe, and Pete, you had mentioned this yesterday, if you're still there, we could see a really good snow band, a smaller, narrow band of very heavy snow begin to create a little havoc for Pennsylvania, Connecticut, what else is there, New York. I really got to get better at my Northeast geography. You can tell I haven't forecasted much up there. And then as you continue through loop after the 24-hour mark, this is when things get a little chaotic. And right there, initially, I'll show you guys the HRRR, but I would really, if I were SPC, if anybody from SPC somehow finds this live stream, hello, first of all. Second of all, I would really toss the idea to your cohorts about making a small hatched area down there. And I'll show you guys why before we go any further into the loop. Let me see, where are we at? Let's see, here we go. So take a look at how much, this is not CAPE, folks. This is our significant torn parameter. if you look right in through here, we have almost a pseudo dry line set up over the south. If you come back to our theta E image, I know I love to go back over to this a lot, but theta E is a wonderful tool. I used to use it all the time when I was analyzing charts. If you come back over here, notice how we actually have, that's not a front, this is a dry line. That low key is a dry line. I'm not even joking. In fact, I want to go to WPC and see if they have that drawn. If they have that drawn, I'm literally going to quit the stream and be like, just hire me already. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to be that arrogant. Let's see. They have a trough. They have a trough. Let me see if they actually draw anything like a dry line down there. No, they don't. I would highlight that as a pseudo dry line. At least I would discuss it as like a pseudo dry line. I'm surprised they don't have something like a dry line down there. What do the dew point temps look like? Let's go to our numerical model data. Type in legacy. And let's go to the NAM nest. And let's go down to the south and take a look at our dew points. What do our dew points look like? Let's go to the theta E, see if the NAM is picking it up. Yep, NAM is definitely picking it up. And let's go to our dew points. Oh yeah, look at that. That, to me, is definitely an indication of a dry line. Pete, if you're in there, back me up on this. That definitely looks like a dry line right there. Because our front is not there yet. There's no way you could argue with me that the front is already down to the south here. There's absolutely no way. Look at the temps. That's not there. The front is not there yet. The front is back up in through here. You could see it kind of coming down to the south. There's where our low was going to try to go genetic, as they like to say it at SPC. Let me get off the highlighter here so I can draw it a little bit more refined. There's the nose of our cold air. You can see it plain as day. Here's our warm advection. Look at that warm front already starting to establish itself. That's a really good warm front. Look at this. We have 58, 59, 52, and then look at 74, 69, 74, 70, then 62, 59. We have a couple little weak low vortices up in here, but there's your front. And then it looks like our surface warm boundary is really starting to get itself going right along the Gulf Coast. Look at that, 77, 75, 74, 74. We have some very warm temps out there. And I agree, PM. Yeah, classic spring signature for sure. So I would, if I were a storm prediction center, I would definitely look at going to an enhanced risk for the southern Texas area, the southern central Texas area, because that's right up along the dry line. We'll call it the dry line. And then as that front really begins to get going, look at how intense that line of thunderstorm activity is expected to be according to the HRRR. And this is not our CAPE, this is our SIG-TORM parameters, and they're looking very impressive over a wide swath of area, right up along the leading edge of these little discrete cells. In fact, it almost looks like the HRRR is highlighting a nice band of discrete cells right along the leading edge of that front. So if you're in Austin, Texas, San Angelo, San Antonio tomorrow, and any outer lying areas to the west of that, if you know people, definitely share this information. We're going to have to watch closely for some very intense tornado activity out there, I do believe. Let me switch this area first. Let me go down to the south, and let's look at our CAPE. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. That's magnificent CAPE. Magnificent. Look at that right there. Very good CAPE values. Very good indications that we are actually breaching the 2,000 to 2,500 joules per kilogram area down there. Let's go ahead and take a look at a sounding from down in that area. Let me switch the GFS. Let me go back over here and pull up the... or actually, let's go to the NAM. We'll look at a NAM SQT down there. We'll click right in through here. Oh, the NAM doesn't have SQTs, I guess. Okay, let's go back to the GFS, and let's click a sounding right there. Oh, yeah. Woo! They definitely... Yep. Now, that is a very, very impressive sound. And let's go a little further in time. We're going to get a radiation inversion overnight, obviously. And then there you go. Inversion break for sure. Or actually, we're already far enough in advance to not see it. There we go, right here. So we got to break that inversion. And I do think, let's go ahead and do some viving. Again, I'm going to take you guys through the forecast process. So what time is it right now? It is 8:34 p.m., This is 12 hours into the future at 6Z. So then there's 0. This is 7 p.m. our time. So this would be 6 p.m. over there. So that would mean we would need the 6 p.m. observation. Let's see. Adds METARs. Or actually, you know what? Better yet, we'll just go down here to the National Weather Service. I know where we can get a lot of really good surface observations. And yes, Travis, to answer your question, what is the DCAPE? We'll look here in a second. I'm not sure if you're asking what D cape is or if you're asking what the D cape is in terms of the value. We'll take a look at that here in a second. I just want to look at a couple surface obs, see how the models are doing with temperature. All right, so it looks like the model is doing very good with temperature. It's viving fairly well. So we got 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Or actually, you know what? Let me see what the recurring observation was for that area. We'll click this one, and let's go. We'll do 3-day observations. That's fine. And so... so the model is under forecasting temps. The model is under forecasting temps by 3 degrees, because as of 6 p.m. earlier today, we were sitting at about 69, we'll say, 69, 70 degrees, and the GFS was forecasting we would already be inverted at 66 degrees. So that would mean that all of our convective indices on this side, yeah, see, the model was thinking we saw a high temperature today of only 70 degrees, because this is max heating of the day. This would be 12... Let's go back to the National Weather Service observations. What temperature did we max out at today? So yeah, we did see a max temp of... Why does the temp vary like that? I don't like how it does that. So we did see a maximum temperature of 70, but they're cooling a little too fast according to the models. They're cooling a little bit. It's cooling off a little bit too fast is what we're predicting. So I don't know if we're actually going to get a low of 57 degrees. We'll have to see. And then a low of 48 degrees. What was the low overnight low yesterday? Ooh, see, yeah, I don't know. I think we just found why the models are dorking up. Let's go back in time then. Let's go back in time and see what the model was thinking. Let me switch the model run. Let's go to 18. We'll go to 12Z yesterday, and we'll see how the model was doing at that time. Let's go back to 0 forecast hour. This is... Submit. Let me change it. There we go. All right, so this is 12Z, February 9th. This is first thing in the morning. And then last night, we want last night's low temp. Submit. 59 degrees as of 6Z. So that was the low temp last night. Okay, so for some strange reason, the model is thinking we're going to get cooler tonight. I don't know why. That's very bizarre. The model is thinking that the humidity shot up yesterday, but we're going to get colder tonight, much colder tonight. So that's weird. I wonder why it's doing that. 59, 58 with lots of saturation, 67, 64, 55. Okay, so yeah, there we just found our problem. I know this is an earlier model run, but I just found our problem as to why the models are underestimating the amount of CAPE that we have out there. This is max heating of the day yesterday. Or no, excuse me, max heating of the day today, and our model is very severely under forecasting our max temps. It's only a couple degrees off, but that'll change dramatically, because what that does here is, if you guys imagine, we used to have this on our lead skew tees. If you imagine there being a lot of red shading right in through here, that's your surface CAPE. All this is untapped air for your air parcel to rise up, condensate and form updrafts. That's all your free convection, basically. And then if you go forward in time, yeah, see, we're already inverted as of this model run, so that's incorrect. This model's not doing too good. If I were to take this and move it to 70 degrees right here, it doesn't look like much. It does not look like much to the naked eye, and I promise you it doesn't take much. Now, if you were to follow this moist adiabatically all the way up, notice how much more CAPE you get out of this area. Lots of more CAPE as compared to if you follow this moist adiabatically up. Notice that. Notice the difference there. So we definitely saw a lot more surface heating than the models have been anticipating. And I think that's why, as every model run has come up and they've acclimated or they've adjusted to the temps, that's probably why in the last 72 hours we've seen our models suddenly go, uh-oh, there's a lot more CAPE out there. For example, if I go back to 12 Zulu on Wednesday and I switch to the thermodynamics and we go to surface-based CAPE, look at this. That's Sunday. Nothing. Watch this. If I go to today at 12Z, Look at the difference. Look at all that. Look at that. That's, this is why I love, this is forecasting, guys. This right here, it may seem like a conglomerative mess of me just bouncing back and forth and looking at stuff like, what's this? And look at the little doohickey there and all that. But this, ladies and gentlemen, that's forecasting for you. And we just busted the models wide open. The models have been under forecasting our surface temps. They've been doing a little okay with our relative humidity and our dew point temps. But that right there is the primary culprit, which makes me want to believe that we're probably seeing an under forecasting screw-up in the Florida Peninsula, and we're probably in for a bit more of a sportier early start to the week than what our models are indicating. Bet you 10-1. We just cracked the code, folks. Cracked the code, and that's exactly what's going on. All right, let's get back to it. So, as you can see here, according to the HRRR, we're going to have a lot of buoyancy, and I absolutely agree with, look at that, almost cussed, but look at that. That's not good. That is not good. Folks, that's something we have not seen all winter. We have not seen that. So I'm thinking, if we wake up tomorrow morning, this is Sunday in the middle of the afternoon, if I were Storm Prediction Center, I would go enhanced with this. I really would. I would do it. I would be ballsy enough, pardon my language, to go full on and go enhanced, hatched area. Because what we are looking at right in through here is all this shaded area. Doesn't look all that fantastic, but just to the west of New Orleans, New Baton Rouge, Macomb, Alexandria, we are now pushing 2,500 to 3,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. That is a recipe for some serious convection. Serious convection. We have not seen that indication on any of our models at all. And this makes a lot of sense, because I bet you 10-1, our temperatures are doing a lot better on this model than they are on the GFS, which is the only tool we have to look at up until this point. Yeah, look at that. This model is definitely doing a lot better. Look at all that. Look at that. Look at all that warm air advection. We're almost pushing 80 degrees down there. We have 80s in very southernmost Texas. We got 80. Yeah, it just gets worse. It just got worse. But look at all this warm air advection, which leads me to believe that's exactly why we need to watch out here. Because look at all this warm advection that's going to take place for us down in our neck of the woods. Oh, this is our FV3. Let me go over to our HRRR real fast. Where is the HRRR? Let me switch over. Let's go HRRR. How are we doing on time? Oh, shoot, we're already 42 minutes into the stream. Good Lord. All right, let's go southeast U.S. Let's go to the 2-meter temperature. And then let's go to... look at that, guys. 80. It's going to be a hot day on Sunday. It's going to be a hot day on Sunday. That's for certain. That's all it takes, though, Nick. You got to remember. We got to remember. And when we go into spring, all it takes is a small little punch of cold air. With these temps and this humidity, I bet if we switch over to our dew point temp, the dew point temp is going to be just as extravagant. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that. Very good dew point temps. Incredible dew point temps. And all it takes is this much. That's it. That's all it takes. When you have really good surface heating and very good moisture advection that'll be occurring out ahead of this thing, right in through here is a recipe for some pretty strong storms. You got your cold air, your drier air advecting in, lots of good moisture. I bet if we switch over to a relative humidity chart, if they have that on here, I think we have a relative humidity. Yeah, here we go. Go to relative humidity and look out there. See, so this is possibly why, and I find that very interesting, but this might be the reason why we're not seeing as much for the peninsula. For some strange reason, Florida's just dry. And this is very interesting. This is max heating of the day. And notice how we're very, very warm in our humidity out across the Gulf Coast states. From Louisiana, we're almost at, look at that, we got 100% humidity right up along the Gulf coastline. But then look at Florida. We're dry. We're dry out there. That's very bizarre. I really wonder why that is. But we're dry in Florida, and we only continue to dry, and we finally get a little bit of that moisture in just in time for the front. Because there's our front right in the back side, or right in the background right here. There's your frontal system kind of pushing through. So you never know. We could see some stuff ignite. We definitely could see some stuff ignite. If I'm not mistaken, the HRRR is thinking that we're going to get a little bit of inversion break over Florida at the last second. Yeah, this is 0Z. Let me go back to 18Z. If you go back to 18 Zulu, where I really want to see 0Z for sure, but look at how last second, see that? Not much, but we do get up. We try to get up to about 1,000 joules per kilogram. We're sitting at about between 400 to maybe 600 on average over the peninsula, and then there's our real good leading edge of the front right in through here. So, I don't know. I would honestly think we should probably bring down that marginal risk a little bit further to the south. And let's take a look at the simulated radar. See what the simulated radar is thinking. Yeah, I would, getting tongue-tied. I really do think we should maybe bring that down just a little bit more. Get that level 1 risk down, maybe a couple 100 miles, just in case. That's my general thinking, though. Travis, I see your question. Let's go ahead and take a look at some D-capes. Where are you looking for D-capes? Travis, where are you looking for D-capes? What specific area? Well, actually, Nick, in this case, we actually have very favorable lower dynamics. If we go over to 850 millibars, we really don't have an incredible low-level wind component. We don't have too much wind shear. I mean, we don't have too much wind shear. We have had bulk shear amounts in the triple digits, and I do think that's what washed out a lot of our storm potential back in the day. But in this case, we actually have very optimal vertical and horizontal shear, because look at that. That's a nice low-level jet. A low-level jet is only 35 knots or stronger, and we've got all through here about 45, 50 knots of wind with some embedded areas of 60 knots through the Carolinas. And it only gets stronger. Right about here is where I would say we got too strong of shear. That is too strong. We'll rip storms apart. But right about here, that's optimal wind shear for sure. If we go to, let me go ahead and look at the D-cape values real quick. Let's go ahead and go back in time. Let's go to 18Z on Sunday as we get started with the main event. Well, actually, we'll go 12Z. We'll go to 12Z as we get started. We'll go kind of right around the San Antonio area. D-cape is fairly impressive. That's 634 joules per kilogram of downdraft cape. So we could get some really good convective winds off this stuff before we have to worry about tornadoes or even, dare I say, hail. That's looking pretty good, though. That's sounding right there. This is definitely a bit more of that conditionally unstable sounding as opposed to the conditional stability we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot more of our moist adiabatic lapse rates. Well, I can't draw a straight line to save my life. We've been seeing our lapse rates a little bit more shallow on a lot of our soundings. If you notice, this definitely has a bit more of a spring element to it. We're getting a little bit more of that nudge, as I like to put it. We're getting a little more of that nudge into a more unstable lapse rate. And down at the surface, this is only 12Z. Let's go to 18Z. There you go, yeah. So we have a little bit of subsidence that may be broken by... Actually, no, we're through the front at this point. We're through the front, and that front's going to catch up. Actually, no, we're not. Doesn't look like the front's gone through just yet. Now the front has gone through. This is 06Z. No, actually, the front has gone through by the time we get to 18 Zulu, so it's going to be an early in the day event, that's for sure. D-cape does look pretty impressive in Texas. Yeah, it kind of stays on average right around that 600 to 700 joules per kilogram at its highest point. Let's go over to Florida real quick. We'll go a little forward in time. Let me go back. All right, so there's our upper front. So our cold front is getting ready to pass through. We'll go to 12Z. We'll go to the Panhandle. We'll go towards Tallahassee. I've had someone on TikTok mentioning Tallahassee and bringing it up for me. Yeah, see, this is, down through here, this is far more, conditionally stable. Here is where we get into more of that conditional instability. This is far more conditionally stable with, modest, most unstable cape, modest D-capes, not a whole lot there. This is first thing in the morning, though. Once we get a little bit of surface heating, lots of saturation. That's very interesting. We got a saturated column all the way through, and then after the front is through, the upper front anyways, it starts to back off, huge dry air slot. If we weren't capped, we would definitely see a lot more decape on these soundings. Let's go back towards San Antonio. We'll go to 12Z Sunday. San Antonio is right about here. Let's see. Yeah, San Antonio is looking very much of the same. Let's go to 18Z. There's our inversion break. Inversion break has occurred, and it honestly does not look like that subsidence inversion is going to be enough to bring our air parcels back down. I think once we make our convective temp, these air parcels will make their way up. That's when we have to look at our mixing layer cape as opposed to our surface-based cape. And we can't take this as reality. I know our indices on the right-hand side here are looking very unimpressive, nil to none, but don't forget, we already highlighted that the GFS is under forecasting surface temp, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit more of an inversion break out of that subsidence cap as well. So this is what HRRR is thinking. 0Z is almost all the way in. Yeah, I think we could see some very isolated pockets of stronger stuff try to make its way into the Ocala, Orlando metro area. Not severe. Not severe. I don't think we'll see very, very aggressive severe storms, but I do think we have a shot at seeing some decent stuff try to mix in. See, you can see there's a little bit of cape that tries to pop off during the daytime. Little bit as we try to break that inversion, but still, for some reason, the peninsula is still being highlighted as dry. I don't understand why. That's so weird. So weird that of all places where our relative humidity and our dew point is usually through the roof, Florida is the dry one out of the whole equation here. I wonder why that is. To answer your question, Sam Mastapasta, it does look like Georgia is going to get in on the action as well. Lots of good cape values trying to surge up into that area. I'm definitely concerned about this, though. That's impressive. Let's go to a sounding really fast, and let's compare. Let's go to a sounding near the New Orleans area. What time is that the model is thinking we're going to get a lot of buoyancy out there? Where did it go? I just lost it. Where did I put the There we go. So this is 20 Zulu, 21Z, max heating of the day out there in New Orleans. So we want an 18Z skew T for that area. Let's see if the GFS is thinking the same thing. This is going to tell us a lot. If the GFS is showing no cape, then we know one of our models is an outlier and doing terrible. Absolutely terrible. And there you go. We just found it. So the GFS sucks. The GFS sucks. I'm putting it out there. Once again, just kind of like in the tropical season, GFS sucks. GFS thinks it's going to be too cold. GFS doesn't think we're going to get any surface cape. ML cape looks really good. Most unstable cape looks really good. The D cape is looking solid. Really good shear relative humidity, but surface cape, it does not give us a vote of confidence that we're going to break or we're going to hit convective temp. Look at that. That's actually horrible. This is not good. This is why all of our models leading up to this have shown no threat for severe weather. That's horrible. That's a huge difference. If we go back over to here and go back to our surface temp on this model here, our 2-meter temperature, look at the difference. Max heating of the day on Sunday at 18Z. 18Z February 11. Look at what the model is thinking. 78 degrees as you get to the northwest of Lake Pontchartrain, off to the northwest of New Orleans. 74 in the greater New Orleans area. Look what the GFS is forecasting. 18Z, 65 degrees. Hell no. Throw this model out. Throw it out. Don't even bring it up. If I see anybody using it in other YouTube videos, I'm going to mention this, and I'm going to be bold enough to say you're dorking up big time, because that is bad. That is going to bust your forecast wide open. It's going to bust the forecast, and it's going to get people hurt, because that is a 10, almost a 12-degree difference. Trash. Absolutely. I'm being honest. Not hyping. That's just trash. That's exactly, because look at this. Watch this. If this was Leeds, an old program we used to use in Air Force weather, if I take this 65 degrees and move it up 10 degrees, boom. Now we have a conditionally unstable lapse rate, and we're going to go all the way up to the level of free convection. Boom. That's why our cape is off the charts on our HRRR. That's why the cape is off the charts. That's a big difference. Right here, we have a very strong radiation inversion. If we were to move the surface temp right here and put it at that 75, 77 degree point, lots of surface cape, lots of good instability. We got that dry air entrainment, the mid-levels, perfect mid-level dry slot. Yeah, that's going to be bad. Obviously the HRRR isn't perfect, but that's a big telltale difference. Like, let's go ahead and look at the skew T's. Like, we're going to use another forecasting method right here. Not skew T's. We're going to look at the surface obs, and we'll see what the model is thinking. So, obviously, we saw the GFS was forecasting a 65-degree max temp for the New Orleans area. Now, what we're going to use here is continuity. Obviously, we're under the same air mass. We haven't had a front come through. We haven't had anything big change the weather. So, continuity and consistency is going to be our best friend here. Whatever the max temp was today and into tomorrow, with this warm air advection, we can forecast it's either going to be exactly the same or hotter. So let's go see. Let's go to our New Orleans. Let's go to our map here. We'll go back to the National Weather Service, and let's take a look at what our high temp was in that area today. Oh, my God. Yeah, GFS. Throw the GFS out. GFS is on crack. Crack cocaine, it's Breaking Bad. GFS is already out to lunch. I don't even have to look at our max temp. Look at this. The model's already under forecasting it severely. Boom, done. Throw the model out. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Just blow it up. Bomb it. We're at 70 degrees, 73 degrees in Baton Rouge already. And this is cooling. We're already cooling. We're already out there cooling. For sure. The sun's been down for a few hours now. It's almost 8 p.m. out there. It's 9 p.m. almost here. And look at how much hotter that is. Let's go back to the GFS sounding real quick for Baton Rouge, and let's see what the model is thinking is our current temperature out there right now. So let me go back in time. Let's go to 12 hours into the forecast. There's 0Z. 69 degrees. This was a little while ago. So let me go back here, and let's see. Baton Rouge is at 73 degrees right now. Let's go to the 3-day observations. So about an hour ago, we were sitting at 73 degrees. So the model is already under forecasting it. It's already under forecasting 4 degrees, which changes everything. So GFS, X out. Done. We're not using it. GFS is on crack. We don't know what's happening. So that's an alarming trend. And in fact, I want to kind of see if SPC brings this up at all. Day 2, yeah, no, they haven't. They haven't changed anything yet. I don't know when they update this, to tell you the truth, guys. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what the morning brings to us. So that's what we're thinking. We're going to have a really good chance of seeing some really solid severe weather. I'm concerned now for Louisiana, Mississippi. I'm definitely concerned for them. All right, let's get into snowfall before we run really late and we go over time. FV3 is thinking we're going to have a really good, by the way, yeah, let me go ahead and show you guys this as well. FV3 model. The FV3 at 12 Zulu today is thinking we're going to have to watch off the west coast of Florida, because you can see we're going to have at least a couple sporty cells trying to make their way into Ocala, the Tampa Bay area, maybe even southwest Florida, depending on how much that water can do for them out there. This is the FV3, obviously. It's not our HRRR. It looks like Tallahassee could see that's a dangerous setup. That's exactly what gave us some tornadic air out there, or tornadic activity with that last cell, or that last storm that came through. Those prefrontal setup, those prefrontal cells that try to sneak into that area. That's kind of concerning right there. So anyway, snowfall. Let's get into the snow. So this is our blend of models. And as I mentioned, the blend of models is in pretty good agreement with what I'm anticipating as well. You can see we get a good amount of snow packing up over the Texas-Oklahoma panhandle, drifting out of that cold pocket. And when I say cold pocket, I don't mean a low level or anything like that, or up or low. I mean just cold air bleeding out of New Mexico, the Four Corners, out of the higher terrain. And then that snow band kind of dwindles until it gets up into the northeast. And even then, not looking at too impressive of snow amounts up there in the northeast. We'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. And these are our snow totals that we're thinking according to the blend of models. And the blend of models has been a little bit more reliable. That could be it, although it definitely didn't feel that way. We're definitely in a modifying air mass, for sure. We're definitely in a modifying air mass down here, because the humidity was definitely up today. But here are your snow totals brought to us by the blend of models, and we'll take a look at the Shref here in a second, but I do think this is going to be a little bit more on the realistic side. And if we come over to, I know I said we're not going to use the GFS, but we're going to use it for our broad area. So if you track this through time, this is where our coldest air is likely to be with this shortwave, right in through here where our contour troughing is. Because if you look, we don't get a lot of lift. We don't get a lot of vorticity out ahead of it. We have vorticity along the warm front, vorticity along the cold front. This is going to be our likely area where our shortwave is trying to build up a little bit stronger intensity at 850 millibars. And you switch over to 700 millibars, and you fast forward. 700 millibars stacks really well, and you can kind of see where that shortwave is really embedded in the pattern right in through there. So our heavy snow band is going to occur somewhere in this general area. And I do think at 18Z, the GFS has reined itself in. Again, if you go back in time to, we'll say 12Z yesterday, and you look at our total snowfall overall with this event, look at that. This is why everyone was freaking out. Of course, the hype. Oh, look at the GFS calling for over a foot of snow. Then if you go back to our model today, big difference in terms of our snow totals. I would discount that. If you go back to 12Z, yeah, see, our snow band is going to be very narrow. Very, very narrow. And even then, the GFS can't really nail down exactly where our heaviest snow band is going to be. Do I agree that it's going to be somewhere in this small corridor? Absolutely. But I don't think we're going to see that much snow. It'd be very impressive if we got over a foot of snow. The blend of models is definitely not seeing it. Let's see here. Where can I pull up the Shref? I think we might have to go to Pivotal Weather for that, if we even have access to it anymore. Log in. Nope, I don't want that. I don't want to plan. I want to do free. Let's see, where's the Shref at? Here's the Shref. We'll go to our short-range ensembles. We'll go up towards the northeast. We'll go forecast loop, and we'll look at the short-range ensembles for our total snowfall. And I'm pretty sure this model is in track or on track with what NOAA Blend of Models is thinking. Yeah, see, we have very, very good agreement between the NOAA Blend and our Shref, to where our highest max potential could be 8 to 10 inches, depending on where you are. That's always the case. We're going to get a very thin band of our heaviest snowpack, and the rest of the area, I believe, is going to get broad brushed by 3 to 6 inches. I think that the general area that's within the heavy snow threat, which is still heavy snow, considered heavy snow, I think we're going to see 3 to 6 inches on average with a heavier snowpacking closest to where that short wave and that wraparound moisture is converging on itself in the mid to upper levels. Let's go. I don't know if I want to use GFS QTs. Whatever. We'll use our GFS QTs. We'll just take a look. We'll just take a look at what the GFS is thinking. So at 850 millibars, we're going to be at about, it's saying about 5 degrees under zero. So 5 degrees Charlie to 700 millibars, we're going to be at about -8 degrees Charlie. So that's not an optimal area. Let's go forward in time, see if we get a little more cold air. Yeah, a little bit. And then by then, we're already through the storm. So, in reality, we're not in that optimal. I mean, here we are, but by then the cold air is already through us. The snow's already over. This is when we should be seeing our greatest amount of snowfall. And if you look at 850 millibars, right about here, the temp is at about -6 Charlie. And if you go up to about, we'll go all the way up to 500 millibars. I know usually we only want to go to about 700 millibars, maybe just above that area, but even then, we're barely squeaking out past that -10. And typically, typically to get really good snow growth, you want to be between -10, and I believe the value is -18 in that general area. So if our temperature line was a little bit further closer to this dashed line, the -20, if we swung that over through here somewhere, that would be a little bit more favorable for a greater snowfall in our heaviest snow band. But we're not really in that snow growth zone. We're there. We're going to see snow. We have a totally frozen profile. That's for certain, obviously. But I don't think we're going to see optimal glaciation and really good dendritic snow growth, as it's called, where it packs on top of each other, and that's how you get that crystallization of the snowflake, like James Parker just dropped in the chat, the emoji there. So I don't know. I'm definitely on board with the NOAA blend and the Shref. I don't think we're going to get above 10 inches. We may, very small pockets, obviously because the atmosphere is going to ebb and flow. But I don't think we're going to get anything higher than 8 to 10 inches. Yeah, look, even the GFS, the hourly snowfall shows we're going to have a very, very thin band of the heaviest snowfall. And I like this, actually, because it shows you where our heavier pockets are going to be. You can kind of see the model is trying to show us where our snow zone may be a little more optimal. But all in all, we're going to see pretty decent, just steady, light to moderate snowfall. Nothing really crazy or something to jump the gun about, or expecting widespread power outages and extreme winter storm conditions. I really don't think that's what's going to happen. I think, we have a modest setup for some good snowfall. It's definitely going to be a snow event. I think our models are very crystal clear on that at this point. Let's see what the Euro is thinking. I haven't had a chance to look at what the Euro was predicting in terms of its snow totals. We'll go to just the overall snow model and see. You see, so the Euro is still thinking we're going to get some really good accumulation just right up along the coast, intercoastal snow. And then I think these are still a little overzealous totals. 11 inches, 11 inches, 11 inches, 14, 15 a foot here. I think we can probably bump those down a little bit. I don't have the time to do it right now because we're already over time, but what I'd want to do is go back to previous snow events with stronger low pressures, more cold air up there, and take a look at what the max snowfall was observed. And then kind of go off of continuity and historical values. And when I say historical, I don't mean record. I mean like just historical, like in history, because that's history now. The last big event with our severe weather down here was back in January, and we're already getting to the middle parts of February, so that'd be like a historical event. Something that we could look back on and look at the continuity and what our observed values were. Let's go to let's look at the ensembles real quick, and then we'll get ready to cut the stream. Let's see, EPS, Northeast United States. Let's go to the snowfall. We'll look at the ensemble here. What is the yeah? See, so the ensemble. Look at that. The ensemble is way more toned down, and I trust ensembles a lot more than I do operational, because the ensembles are definitely going to be lots and lots and lots of computer members thinking and coming into their best agreement, as opposed to our one deterministic run that's kind of just cut loose to make up its own mind. So if you notice, the Euro ensemble is right in there with our NOAA blended models. If I switch back to the NOAA blend, look at that. Neck and neck. Now that's good consistency. So look at that. 6 to maybe 8 inches, some very, very localized bouts of heavier snowfall. You come back over to the Euro ensembles, right in line. There we go. So that's kind of confident right there. So that'd be my preliminary prediction. I wouldn't go out there hyping up extreme and, match, whoa, but, we're still going to get some good snow. In my opinion, 6 to 8 inches of snowfall would definitely be a good snow event, in my opinion. And I'm a Floridian. The one time I was up in Alpena, Michigan, here, Alpena, right up against the Great Lakes. We saw the Great Lakes before deployment. We saw some really good snowfall, easily over a foot of snow, and that was really nice to see. So that's also why I don't know why people hype snow events. I had fun looking at the snow and the wind and all that. It was cool. So, but obviously infrastructures in urban areas probably take to heavy snowfall differently than very low. What's where I'm looking for? Almost boondock kind of areas. Hi, mamas. What are you doing? So yeah, guys, that's all she wrote. I would definitely think Storm Prediction Center should look into possibly elevating our risk right in through this area. I would go ahead and I would stamp something, or I'd at least discuss it, put it out there. I would definitely stamp something or discuss it. I'd put a level 3 risk right in through here, depending on how our models initialize overnight. And there you have it. We're going to go ahead and call the stream, guys. I have not eaten dinner yet. I'm going to go eat something and spend some more time doing some homework before calling it an evening, but that's all she wrote. Wonderful live stream, guys. I don't know if you guys enjoyed. I don't know how many people are in here because YouTube's all jacked up. It still says we're scheduled for 8, but obviously we've been going. So that's all she wrote. I had fun tonight. I think it was pretty cool. We cracked the code. We see exactly why a lot of our mid to long range models have been predicting such a low end event with what's going on out there. But our high res models are definitely onto something. So good talk tonight. I actually had a lot of fun taking you guys through a little bit of a forecast process. That right there is genuine forecasting, guys. If you guys have been tuning into other channels, and I'm not gloating, I'm not trying to talk smack or make it seem like, oh, but the folks out there who will just look at models and explain the models, that's not forecasting, okay? You guys can do that. You guys look at the models, you can see where the greens and the reds and the yellows and the blues for the snow is. That's not forecasting. Forecasting is when you can interpolate and look at different things like we just did. And we just saw how trash the GFS has been doing. So I'm honestly not even going to look at the GFS for any kind of local events. I'm going to look at it for big picture and then nail it down with observations and more higher res model data. Not looking at the GFS for small scale stuff. No micro or mesoscale forecasting with the GFS, guys. Don't do it. Trash. Like that's one big conclusion we can take away from this stream. Trash. It's not doing good at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's not doing good with our snow. A lot of people have been mentioning extreme 15, 20 inches of snow with the GFS, but obviously if the temps are off down here, I bet you 10-1 the temps are probably off up there, and the model is thinking in its forecasted temperature values in the mid-levels that we're going to be in that more favorable growth for snow as this system moves through, but, it's probably under forecasting attempts a little bit. So we'll have to see. Super Bowl, I completely forgot the Super Bowl was tomorrow. Oh, guys, before we go, what do you think about this? Something totally new for the channel, for the TikTok, for everything. But now that you mentioned the Super Bowl, they're supposed to be releasing the Twister 2, the Twisters trailer tomorrow. What do you guys think we do a reaction to that? And then when the movie releases, we do like a Weatherman reacts to Twisters or some kind of like Weatherman review of the new Twister movie. I think that'd be kind of cool. We can do it either live or we can do it in a hard video or we can do both. We can do like a non-spoiler spoiler review for a video, and then we can do just kind of a commentary on a stream one of these days. And that's going to happen, I think it's either late spring or summer they'll release the film. But we'll definitely see. Yeah, I agree. TRG Tornado. I'm not really paying too much attention to the Super Bowl. I do want to see the Twister trailer. But yeah, what do you guys think of that? Let me know in the comments or hit me up on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I've been kind of contemplating that. I think that'd be a great idea to bring some new content to the table, especially if we are a little slow when the movie releases. We can do a review. We can do an honest review. We can do a reacts video as well. Something like that. Something cool. That's true, too, as well. Oh, yeah, I agree. That's why I would probably do just like a reaction video or a review, like just talking about it. I wouldn't actually have the video or anything up. It'll be more of a just review. But we'll see. I mean, either way, I'll still try to do a reaction video to the trailer. I think that'd be kind of neat. So, to be determined, we'll figure that out. But I thought that was a pretty solid idea. We'll see what happens. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please drop in the comments section below. I'll get back to you. It looks like we got a lot of catching up to do because our models are doing poorly. And now that we're finally getting into some more higher res stuff, we're getting a much more accurate picture of what could be happening, which also leads me to believe, and I'll leave you on this note, that the GFS and all of our other models may be doing just as piss poor of a job with that guy. So we'll have to see. If our models are doing terrible with this first system that was supposed to be a little weaker, then this might also be being under forecast, and we really have to watch this. So we'll see. Next weekend, the Daytona 500 may be spoiled. I'm hoping not. I'm really hoping not, but, to be determined. We shall see. Still have a little time to nail down the timing on this, but we might have to watch this for our next severe weather event, especially here in Florida. But thank you very much for watching, guys. You've been a wonderful crowd tonight. Thanks for tagging along during the forecast process. I hope you learned something new as well, and I hope we can continue to tailor our forecasts as we go through the rest of winter and see what spring and the summer has in store for us, because as La Nina, or the neutral pattern, begins to build in, we're going to see our severe weather increase here in Central Florida in way of the sea breeze. The sea breeze is going to make a comeback. And then obviously, you guys guessed it, we got to throw the plug out there. We got to get ready for the hurricane season, and that's all I'm going to say. Hurricane season is going to be a good one. We're going to have fun. And when I say fun, I'm saying that sarcastically. Into the Storm was okay. It's a fun weather movie. Definitely unrealistic. Definitely not a realistic tornado movie. Fun movie if you like weather, but not a realistic movie. But thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, drop them in the chat below or drop them in the comments below. Hit me up on my other social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, X. Got it right this time, and we'll see you again soon. We're probably not going to do any content tomorrow. We may go live if things are blowing up, but we'll be back to see you again on Monday for sure. To be determined tomorrow. We'll see exactly what shakes out with the weather over Louisiana. I might jump live. We'll see what happens if everything does explode or if we get an update from Storm Prediction Center. We may do a short video. We'll see, guys. We'll see when I first wake up in the morning. But thank you very much for your undivided attention this lovely Saturday night, and I hope you have a good rest of the evening. And until next time, this is Weather Central Nazario, signing out.